Hello and welcome to Runkle of the Bailey. My name is Ian Runkle. I'm a Canadian criminal defense and firearms lawyer. Reports are that all charges against Alec Baldwin in the Rush shooting are being dropped, and a lot of people messaged to ask me my thoughts. Now, at this stage, we don't know a whole lot, so my thoughts are going to be a little brief and subject to change once we know more. But the first thing is that the charges are being withdrawn without prejudice, which means that they have the ability to bring them forward at a later date and lay charges once again. That said, I don't expect that we'll see this happen. I think that it's very unlikely. Usually, when this kind of thing happens, we don't see charges brought back. So I suspect that this is the end and that this is a win for Baldwin. Now, am I surprised? A lot of people ask me that. And the answer to that is no. I actually said that this was a very real possibility, and it was becoming a possibility because of the actions of the prosecution. This was always going to be a hard charge to make out for the prosecution, but from the outset, I thought that this was a worthwhile one to pursue, which is why I was getting really upset when the prosecution was behaving in a fashion that I consider really bad. They were bringing various positions that they were taking were completely untenable, like trying to stick him with a firearm enhancement that wasn't in place at the time of the actual offense, which is a big legal no-no. And then every time that these things blew up in their face, they turned around and they very publicly blamed Baldwin. They acted in very improper fashion. And quite frankly, I was saying, listen, they're endangering their prosecution by doing so. Now that they've had a change in prosecutors, I suspect that the new prosecutor looked at this thing and went, I don't want to pursue this because it was always going to be a hard battle to get a conviction, but now it's going to be a hard battle that will be in part based on the behavior of the prosecution. And at that point, they might go, you know what? Our risk reward on this one has really changed. It's just not worth pursuing. And that's unfortunate because a woman died. And, to lose out on that, I mean, it's unfortunate. I think that the behavior that we've seen from the prosecution on this has been really unfortunate, would be a gentle way to put it. I might go so far as to say reprehensible, or because those kinds of public statements about, being sure that there's guilt and that kind of thing are just, I'm not cool with that. So, I've also seen some people on Twitter claiming that this is from new evidence, saying that the firearm could fire without being discharged. I haven't seen that, or could fire without having the trigger pulled. I haven't seen that in any of the news reports, so I'm kind of dubious about that, especially because we know that the lab tests showed exactly the opposite, that it wasn't capable of firing without the trigger being pulled. Certainly, a lot of people, myself included, have conducted sort of home experiments to see if we could get one of these to fire without a trigger pull, and nobody that I'm aware of has managed to do it. So I think that's an unlikely thing, but I suspect that this one is just going to come down to the behavior of the prior prosecutors. Now, if that is the case, we're probably unlikely to ever see a statement saying that's why it happened. But yeah, at the end of the day, assuming that they never bring charges again, Baldwin is legally not guilty. There's no fault in that element. Now, there might still be fault in a civil suit, which has a different standard, different rules, all of that stuff, and is completely unrelated. But that's just the way the system works sometimes. The other thing I've seen is there are a lot of people out there, primarily on Twitter, sort of saying that this is because he's left wing or that sort of thing. And I'll tell you, on firearm stuff, I disagree with Baldwin pretty profoundly, especially with regards to like your personal responsibilities for safety, because I take that pretty seriously. I think anybody handling a firearm on a movie set or off needs to take that very seriously. But I don't think that this is political. I think that this is just a prosecutor's office that went a little bit too far, got a little over eager, and ended up tanking their own case as a result of it. So I don't think that this is like some conspiracy. A lot of people have said, oh, this is, yeah, I'm not going there. I just think that this is a situation where the prosecution screwed up. That's it. That's all there is to it. Now, a lot of people have been saying, oh, does this mean that the armorer is off the hook? And the answer to that is no. They're still proceeding with charges against the armorer. So I'll still keep following that and trying to see what's going on. So at this stage, that's pretty much all there is to say about this one. We'll have to see sort of what develops. I don't know if they're going to make any sort of big public statement on this one. I would not be surprised if they just filed a very sort of bare bones document just saying, hey, this is what we're doing. Doesn't provide any reasons for it, because I don't think they're required to provide any reasons for it. So I'd be surprised if they did. And just basically says these charges are going away. I don't think we're going to see the same kind of big press release and, you know, public statements that we've seen on the other steps of this one. I suspect this is just going to be a quiet things go away and people move on, and it's just one of those sad tragedies. I think that personally, I thought that this was a case that deserved to be heard, and it's unfortunate that it won't, or at least that it's very unlikely at this point that it will ever actually be properly heard in a criminal court. But c'est la vie. That's just the way the system works sometimes, and this is why I rail against, you know, when you've got police misconduct or prosecutorial bad behaviors, because it can really endanger a prosecution that might otherwise have been perfectly viable and valid. So anyway, I guess that's all I have to really say on that one. As I said, really quick video. I want to thank my Patreon supporters at the $50 level: CCFR, Canada's National Firearms Association, and the Canadian Shooting Sports Association. At the $30 level, Jane Babe and Luxor, David Michaud, and Sights and Arms Limited. And at the $20 level, Lindsay Metcalf, Kyle Fox, Haywire, Gerald to the Bailey, Cameron Johnson, Andrew Elsich, and Vicky. Thank you as well to my $10 supporters who will be in the crawl immediately following. Thank you for watching. I hope this has armed you with knowledge. See you next time.